Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Briareus Kerensky with the first PS4 review of this channel, starring Prismatic Solid, a vertical-scrolling shoot-em-up by Yoichi Komori, published by Playism on the Japanese PSN. Prismatic Solid is nothing new, it has been available for the X360 since 2010 in all regions. I never played it, and its PS4 port would have flown over my head if it wasn't for a tweet. I strongly suggest to watch this video in 720p, and I apologize in advance if the screen becomes a blurry mess. I rendered this video at a higher bitrate than normal, and hopefully this will reflect on the overall quality of its YouTube counterpart. All of this because Prismatic Solid is graphically a very busy game, and a lot of times it's hard to understand what's going on. The core concept is simple enough: destroy everything in the 6 stages the game offers. The player's ship has 6 weapons, each with its own features. The homing works exactly as you'd expect. Split starts off narrow and ends wide. 3-way is as advertised. Rainbow focuses firepower in a narrow beam. Shower sprays bullets in the frontal arc. Snow spreads powerful bullets all around the player's ship. On the upper left corner of the screen there are 3 bars, red, pink and blue, that are filled by collecting corresponding sparks from defeated enemies. This bar represents how many times one of the 3 available bomb types can be used, and how long the tentacles protruding from 3 options around the player's ships are. The tentacles damage enemies and block incoming bullets, with options assuming different positions based on the selected weapon. Bombs absorb all bullets in their path, and the 3 colors have different propagation patterns. Their use as an offensive tool is next to non-existent, and there is a good chance you won't use them once you get to know the defensive properties of the standard weapons. Enemies rarely shoot single projectiles, their attacks weave precise and dense patterns. Rather than avoiding incoming fire, the player has to manage the 3 options to assume a good defense while maneuvering in range of the selected weapon to take care of the opposition. It won't be apparent at first, but every enemy wave and corresponding movement pattern favors one weapon or another, and very soon you'll find yourselves switching back and forth between weapons to better face the incoming threat. Stages aren't particularly long, a full 6-stage loop takes 20 or so minutes, patterns aren't particularly hard to remember, and the game allows for some twitch reactions. The score is entirely based on how many loops you can complete. There are no particular scoring hooks like multipliers or wave bonuses, the only peculiarity being that the 6th stage is unlocked by performing a certain action in the 5th stage. At each loop, enemy and boss patterns change, requiring players to approach situations in a different way. As the game is based on looping stages, keeping players interested for a long time is a must, and Prismatic Solid delivers on the boss front, introducing new offensive and defensive patterns. Stages don't vary much, and some tedium due to repetition will kick in. The game really comes alive only during the 2nd loop, and after the 3rd, it might be hard to find interest in the game. I don't know if there's a limit to available loops, but top players on leaderboards go as far as 5 loops, a rather impressive task. Prismatic Solid takes a novel approach in stage and loop selection. As long as it has been cleared, it's possible to select the starting stage in any loop. Stages in the first loop have a preset score, and the first stage in a new loop starts with the highest score reached at the end of the previous, with subsequent stages based on that score plus a preset amount, allowing players not to repeat earlier loops. This also gives a chance to practice on specific stages and still having a shot for a high score. Maybe not the most hardcore approach, but works well here. What doesn't quite work are the game's graphics. As a first impact, Prismatic Solid looks impressive. Everything is either a simple solid or composed by those, the backgrounds are dynamic, and particles generated interact with every visible element. The game doesn't have a particularly fast tempo, but it runs at a constant pace throughout, probably never past 30 frames per second, with very minor drops when the situation gets particularly busy. And when I say busy, I mean by Prismatic Solid standards, as the screen is filled with special effects from the get-go. So filled that it's hard to understand where the player's ship is. With all the glow, moving bump maps, incredible number of particles, and the options around the ship, it's easy to lose it among the chaos, making a lot of deaths unfair. There is no denying that the game looks very stylish, especially in the later stages, but it feels like a tech demo with effects way too out of control for an optimal experience. As the game goes on, this problem never goes away. In fact, it becomes a little worse, with more elements on screen, including bullets, and therefore more special effects to go through. You can't quite get fully used to this, and this is the game's chief problem. Stage design can be impressive, but also overwhelming, and only few of them show interesting ideas, game-wise. Some variations in ladder loops are pretty hard on the eye, like Stage 2 too. The weapon system has some depth, but it's never fully realized, with the shower and snow weapons able to carry you throughout the game without many problems. The graphical premise in Prismatic Solid is quite good. Completely devoid of textures, the game relies on flat colors, shaded with different light sources that create simple, multicolored reflections. Bosses are impressive in their simplicity, and some really stand out, like the fifth. Others, like the fourth, make excellent use of the stage theme. Within a stage, background, enemies and boss create an homogeneous group with nothing out of place. Stage backdrop design is always impressive. The second stage, Cold Water, create bump maps over a semi-transparent surface as you move and shot your way through the stage. The fifth is a tunnel with constantly moving parts. As said before, though, the excessive number of particles and sometimes glow not only hamper the game, but also the presentation. Strangely enough, the BGMs aren't as upbeat as the graphics. For me this is a plus, as I don't like dance, techno, whatever music, but I felt that the soundtrack only comes alive when against bosses. Sound effects are almost inaudible, but that's not a bad thing. Standard shot-em-up effects would sound out of place with this graphical style, and even if the music style is not my favorite, it blends very well with the rest of the game. Past its stylish shine, Prismatic Solid offers decent shooting mechanics, but the game is ultimately marred by its graphics. The lack of scoring hooks aside from loop repetition might turn off some shoot-'em-up fans, and those willing to undertake the ordeal have to stay with the game for a bit of time, as the first impact isn't particularly enticing. The game really comes alive during the second loop, and after completing that, much of the interest in the game might be gone. I hope you have enjoyed this review and you'll stick around for more. Briareos Kerensky, over and out.